back to a special bonus episode of the Whatnauts Review Show, a show where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all sorts of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and we come back here and we discuss it. This is a special year-end mini episode where we look back on all the stuff we've covered this year. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined by my co-captain, Kyle Springer.
Except this week, you're sitting there like every week we have a brand new story to talk about. It's like, well,
that's normally
not
what we do. Now we're not talking about a story. We're talking about times we talked about stories. It's very meta. We're going up several layers.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Melissa, how are you? How's your weekend been? How's your week been?
It's been fine. We're living in a post Spider-Man No Way Home world.
Yeah, we are. I got to go see it on Thursday night. And I think you saw it yesterday on Friday. And then, I think we're going to do our spoiler cast on that tomorrow night. So exciting stuff. I haven't conferred with you to be like, what did you think yet? So it's exciting. I will at least say that I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I've
never laughed so much and cried so much at a movie at the same time.
I know, right? Like I'm crying and I have tears in my eyes because something super emotional happens, and then like the next scene I'm laughing so hard, but I'm still crying from the scene before, and I'm just like, I don't know how to feel.
I think my eyes were wet for like an entire hour for various reasons.
Good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was definitely a great movie. I almost had another bad experience getting to the theater, but I was prepared this time.
Good.
I knew
you've
the
learned.
signs. I knew what to watch out for. So I made it there on time. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Melissa, this whole thing here is kind of what we do every year. We've been doing it on our retrospective, though, which is usually where we do our review show awards and just kind of looking back and reflecting on all of the stuff that we covered, picking our favorites and least favorites and best supporting and who would we go on a date with, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we're still probably gonna mention some of that stuff on the retrospective, but you had the idea of like, what if we just kind of spun most of that out into its own review show special thing? Like, let's just make it a short thing.
Yeah, there's always so much stuff I want to talk about in great detail, and I'm worried it's boring for the crossplay guys who weren't involved in most of this. They sit here and twiddle their thumbs and eat pizza while I yell about Halt and Catch Fire for 10 minutes. So I thought, we'll still cover some of it in the retrospective, but for the sake of their interest, let's make a little dedicated mini episode where we can have as much space as we want to talk about the stuff we watched and read together.
Absolutely. So here we are. End of the year. Yeah. Let's see. I feel like we've done a lot. Like, looking back, I mean, it's the same amount that we do every year, right? But like, for some reason, this one feels like we did a lot. Maybe that's just the nature of the pandemic, or who knows what. But yeah, I feel like we covered a lot, and we got a good variety of stuff.
We did. This is a year we tried some new things. We stuck to some of our old favorites. We got superhero stories in there. We got all our weird little sci-fi movies. We got our Halloween spooky month. But one thing I was proud of is this is the year we read our first book, like outside of graphic novels and comics. We read House of Leaves.
Yeah, I had to learn to read to figure out how to read this book. It took me a bit.
By default, gets the award for best book, best novel.
I don't know. I would say that's the worst book that we read all year, Melissa.
truly a unique experience. I'm very glad that was something we got to do together, that's the book we decided to try this out with.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite
House of
moments
Leaves.
from the review show this year is when you asked me, what do you think was the scariest part of the book? And I'm like, well, it's really small and it doesn't play that big of a part, but I think it was this part. And you're like, I was thinking of the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It was a real mind meld moment.
Yep. Absolutely. 'Cause, like, it's just so effective the way that they did that one. So for a little bit of context, if you don't remember, House of Leaves was the book that we read this year, and it's about a house that is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. It has these kind of supernatural qualities that if you go inside this certain room, it just leads to nothingness. Like, it just leads to black, and like there is rooms and space inside of it. It's not just like this endless abyss of pure nothingness. Like, there are stairways and doors and stuff like that inside, but there's no windows, there's no lights, there's nothing in there. It's just creepy and dark and black. And yeah, they spent like a whole chapter like explaining how echoes work and just yeah, like all of this stuff. And then there's a particular sentence at the end of that chapter where a child says something that could have been mistaken for her saying something else that makes it sound like it was this like really weird thing where it's just like that was really spooky, and they just spent this whole chapter like setting me up for this thing. It's like
setting you up with like academic essays. Like, you spent a chapter reading these really dry academic essays, and that leads to the scariest thing you've ever read.
Yeah. And it was like, it seems boring to explain it, but in the context of the book, it was haunting. It was just like, oh god, like that like made my stomach like twist, and it was just like, I don't like this. But yeah, good stuff there. All right. So where do we want to begin? Do we want to do award stuff first? Do you have more stuff that you want to like talk about before we do the award stuff?
I'm trying to think of what we do want to save for the retrospective. I think in the retrospective we'll just list everything that we did, so then at least our fellow Whatnauts are aware of what we covered, even when they weren't around for it.
I feel like the retrospective will be like, here is some highlights of this stuff. Like, here's what we picked as our favorite. Here's our best supporting character. Here's a few of the songs from Melissa's
we'll just recap everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to read through everything now?
Sure.
I've got it up. Okay. So we started this year by watching all of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies to date. So we came back and we watched Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre in preparation for No Time to Die later this year, which we did cover on the Reactor Core. Then we read the DC comic Gotham by Gaslight and watched the animated movie. We listened to season 1 of the audio drama The Amelia Project. Then we watched The Queen's Gambit, a limited Netflix series. Our first monthly ongoing series of the year was that we watched all 4 seasons of the show Halt and Catch Fire. We watched the movie In Bruges. We watched season 1 of the K-drama Love Alarm. We read all 3 volumes of the Valiant Comics series Livewire. We read The Vision in preparation for WandaVision. There was another exciting thing we got to do this year compared to last year when there was so little content happening. This year we had to watch and read and listen to things in relation or preparation for a thing that was coming out new that year.
Yep.
So that was good to have that back. We watched season 1 of My Hero Academia. We watched the movie The Devil All the Time. For episode 151, we watched Pokemon, the first movie.
We had to.
We listened to, we listened to the audio drama In Another Room. We watched Pacific Rim, finally. We read the first 2 volumes of the comic The Unwritten. And during a week where I was out, I had my second COVID shot, and so I was like completely out of it. Ignacio joined you, and you both watched the anime movie I Want to Eat Your Pancreas.
Yeah.
Which I know nothing about. Blank spot for me. I never looked that up on my own. Then we watched the movie The Mitchells versus the Machines. We watched The Kid Detective, another movie. Our next ongoing monthly series after we finished Halt and Catch Fire was we watched all 3 seasons of the German Netflix show Dark.
Yeah.
It was a big time travel year for us. Then we watched season 1 of The Way of the House Husband, another anime. The show Dimension 404, an anthology sci-fi show. We read both volumes of the Doctor Doom comic by Christopher Cantwell.
Creator
we watched
of,
the
Halt and Catch Fire.
Yeah, we had a lot of connective tissue this year. We do one thing and it would lead us to something else. We watched the Japanese live-action comedy show Kantaro, the Sweet Tooth Salaryman.
Yep.
And then for the 3 episodes where you were on vacation, I had other co-hosts join me. My friend Audrey joined me, and we read a graphic novel called Folklords. Friend of the show, Jack, joined me, and we watched the Netflix show Maniac. And then my brother Jams came by, and we read the comic series Check Please, which is a hockey romantic comedy.
There you go.
And then you came back, and we read the first 4 volumes of the manga Princess Jellyfish. We listened to the audio drama Passenger List. We watched the Netflix sci-fi movie Stowaway. We read House of Leaves. We had the great Digimon debate where Ellen and Ignacio joined us to argue about Digimon the movie and the original 3 Japanese mini movies that were edited together to create this American movie.
Yep. And which one is better, the subbed or the dubbed version?
It wasn't just that. It was the original source material and then the edited down 80-minute weird compilation of them.
Yeah.
For Shame Timber, my movie was Aliens and your movie was Looper.
Yeah.
And then we started our next ongoing monthly series, the final one of the year, watching all 3 seasons of The Leftovers. For Spooky Month, we watched the Australian mockumentary Lake Mungo, the Netflix show Brand New Cherry Flavor, classic Beetlejuice. Read the graphic novel, the first 2 volumes of the comic Something is Killing the Children. And we watched the original version of the movie Suspiria from 1977 and then its remake from 2018, which was something else that we'd never done before. We'd read a comic and then watch its movie adaptation, but we'd never covered a movie and the remake of the movie.
Yeah.
We read Flashpoint, the DC Comics event Flashpoint. We watched Kiki's Delivery Service. And then finally, for the holidays, we watched the rom-com Love Hard. And from HBO Max, the brand new, nostalgic, 80s-fueled 8-Bit Christmas.
Yeah. Quite a bit. Good variety.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Let me ask you this, Melissa.
Uh-huh.
Looking back on all the stuff that we did, is there something that you feel like we didn't get to that in the new year you would like to, hey, we didn't really do this genre, or I would like to do another K-drama, or we've done comics, but they've mainly been superhero comics. So what if we do comics about this thing? Is there something like that you would like to bring into the new year, or something to do more of?
That's true. I don't think no, you weren't here, but when we read Folklords, that was a Western comic about non-superhero stuff. And so was The Unwritten. I think we did have a good variety this year. I think there's individual things that I wanted to pitch that I just didn't get included this year that I've got front loaded for the beginning of next year. But in terms of mediums or genres, I think we did well. There's stuff that we covered that I think we covered sufficiently that I want to do more of. Something I'm finding really rewarding is when we watch live action international entertainment. Like I
Okay.
love the foreign shows. I think that's really interesting. We spent so much time this year with Dark. We watched Love Alarm. We watched Kantaro the Sweet Tooth Salaryman. In past years, we watched The Forest and Typewriter. The Typewriter's one that like I keep referring back to. That was a really fun experience. I like to do
Yeah.
that. I want to explore more international content in the years to
Cool.
come.
Good. Goal achieved. That has always been
Right.
like a goal of mine of just like there's so much good stuff out there that
Yeah.
people tend to ignore just because they have to read subtitles. And I get that. I understand it, right? There are absolutely times where it's just like I don't want to read, like I'm too tired, or I'm building a little Gundam model at the same time or something. Which, by the way, my parents
Yeah.
just bought me a big guy. Big
Oh my
one here.
God.
This Psycho Gundam.
Wow.
So
That's a nice treat from parents to buy you a Gundam.
yeah, that was an early Christmas gift there.
I want to say,
but-
speaking of international entertainment, I wanted to mention to you that I was in the beauty store Ulta this week.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes they will do, or many cosmetics brands will do like a collaboration with like a pop culture property, and they'll have like, it's a WandaVision themed eyeshadow palette or something.
Sure. Yeah.
I forget what the brand was, but there was an entire end cap of Money Heist themed makeup.
Yeah. Money Heist is huge. It's great. I just finished the series because they did the like second part of their final season like a week ago ish. Yeah, great show. Highly recommend it. It's all in Spanish, but yeah, it's phenomenal.
And that's a show we talked about.
Foreign content on stuff.
We talked about Money Heist. Was it when season 3 or 4 came out? We did a special episode of the Reactor Core where you'd seen all of it and you explained everything to me because I'd never seen any of it. So you explained the show to date and then whatever the newest season was.
Yeah, we were kind of doing an experiment on the Reactor Core to be like, can like sometimes our interests don't necessarily align, but we still want to talk about those things. So would it be okay if like for an hour and a half, like one of us like just geeks out and explains this whole thing to the other? And we didn't really stick with that experiment. I don't think it necessarily worked out well. You might see it again down the road if need be, but
it depends on like
we're gonna keep doing stuff like that.
It depends on if there's something one of us is super jazzed about that the other person just isn't able to watch. Like I wasn't going to catch up on multiple seasons of Money Heist. And we did one where I explained Good Omens to you and you didn't have access to Amazon Prime at that time. So you couldn't have watched it. So that's why we did like those 2 experiment episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, like I while I don't think that we might do experiments like that as often, our Money Heist episode is still like one of our highest performing episodes of all time. So
wow.
It's kind of wild.
And to mention another high performing episode, I know you talked about season 1 of Dark on the original incarnation of the show that was just called The Whatnauts. You and your former co-host Paul talked about it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most popular episodes. And there was another reason why we wanted to cover Dark this year. I'd never seen it. You really wanted to show it to me. We were thinking a lot about time travel stories in conjunction with Loki, which came out around that time in the summer. So, and we were also like, let's talk about the rest of Dark. Let's do Dark again and complete the thing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I had fun. I had a blast with all of this stuff here. I think for me though, in the new year, the stuff that I kind of want to bring to the table, I do want to do another K-drama just to get it so we don't just have like, we did our one box checked, right?
Right.
Like I
And
want
it's like a very
more in there.
Yeah, and it's like a teen romantic soap opera, which is very specific. And I'm sure we could find so much else that's in completely different genres.
Sure, yeah. On top of that, I don't think we've really ever done kaiju movies. Or I mean, Pacific Rim, you could put in there, right? With like the giant mechs and they're fighting giant monsters, but like kaiju proper. Like we haven't watched a Godzilla movie.
We watched those Netflix animated ones, but it is different. Yes,
we did. That was a few years ago. But I think we just need more kaiju. Just more giant monsters, right?
I can understand that. Yeah,
that is something that I want to bring more next year.
This might also be a way for you to sneak some mechs in there.
Maybe, yeah, yeah. Exactly. I mean, there are some like Pacific Rim, not spin-offs per se, but yeah, there's like a Pacific Rim anime, stuff like that we could do that have the kaiju and giant mechs, stuff like that. So good stuff. All right.
What are some of your favorite?
Go for it.
No, I was just gonna ask, what are some of your favorite things we covered this year?
Yeah. So of my favorite stuff, this one was a hard year to pick like one thing that was a standout that was my favorite. Of course, in Shametember, we covered Looper, which is a movie that I was ashamed to have said that I hadn't seen until then because I knew I was gonna like it. It's a time travel movie. It's a crime noir. Like it's just right up my alley. And yeah, I watched it and I was like, damn, I love this. This is great.
Of course.
But yeah, like that was one that I kind of knew that I would like there. Halt and Catch Fire, I think, is also one that we keep going back to.
Yes.
We both really, really loved the characters in that. And I think it's one that if they suddenly announced season 5 and 6, we would be there in a heartbeat, right? Like,
yes.
Drop everything you're doing, turn the TV on, go watch it, go binge it. We would be right there.
That was something we covered towards the beginning of the year. We finished it in April. It's 8 months later. I still think about it all the time. I think Halt and Catch Fire has like worked its way deep into my heart.
It really has. Yeah, I like it's one that I think you just think about a lot because the show had so much potential, still has so much potential, and it's just the drama in all the characters' lives. You are just so fascinated about how they drift apart and then come back together in new ways, and just have these like they've known each other for so long, but their relationship used to be like this thing, and now it's this, and it's just kind of fascinating to watch it all.
It's remarkable, and it does something. It's like a very small character-based show. It really rotates around like 5 main characters, and it's so down to earth and realistic. Like there's not a lot of like plot machinations, there's no mythology, there's no mysteries. It is just interpersonal character relationships for 4 seasons, and it gets so much out of that. It's a real treat. I think it's something special.
Absolutely. 2 more things that I have down here. I kind of knew going into, since I had read this before, but Something is Killing the Children is one of my favorite comics from this past year, or I guess since 2020, I think is when it started. But But yeah, that book is fantastic, and I am eagerly awaiting volume 4, and wanting that series to continue. They've started a spin-off series to that one called House of Slaughter, which I have not checked out yet. But it's a prequel. I Yes, now that I know a little bit more about what it is, it's a prequel to the series about how, God, I don't remember his name, but that one character who was also, it's how he got to be kind of where he was in the House of Slaughter, like where he got to be, like how he got to have his position there. So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to checking that out eventually. Yeah, I just that book was fantastic. It's imaginative, it's scary, it's like it has that good like small town vibe. It has just like it's a good mix of stuff. So good. And then last but not least, Kentaro the Sweet Tooth Salaryman. That one is another one that has stuck with me, of just like, man, this show is so good. Like, some of the stuff they did in that was just brilliant. It was just incredibly hilarious. It was just so stupid and fun. Like they just, it was ridiculous. Like that is just pure joy. Is what that show was, and it's just like you can't not like this show. It's so good.
I love that the premise is that it's a businessman who is secretly obsessed with desserts and sweets, and he runs a sweets blog, and he would go out on these sales calls and sneak away from the business he was visiting to go to one of these local cafes and try a treat. And it's just about, can he keep this secret? Can he get back to the office in time? But most of the episode, it spends like 10 or 15 minutes on just the transcendent, out-of-body hallucinatory experience he has when he's eating
orgasmic
a cake.
Experiences.
Right.
Yes.
He goes to another world. He eats something with a peach, and then it's so good he imagines like, I want to become the peach. I am the peach. And he imagines himself with a peach for a head. And he goes on a little peach adventure.
Yeah. The show is ridiculous, but it's so good. It's so funny. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff with that. So those were my favorites.
Awesome. That's a good list. Besides Halt and Catch Fire, another thing that's really stuck with me is the show Maniac, which I watched when you weren't here, but you've watched it previously on your own time. Maniac was wild. It's so inventive. It's changing itself like every episode or within the episode so much. It's so stylistically impressive. There was a shot in one of the episodes that was so amazing. I like wanted to stop what I was doing and like text somebody, like call them, just like, can I describe this shot to you? Can I describe this mise en scene? You won't believe how this is framed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That one didn't stick with me as much. I don't remember it as much as I remember when the like commercials came out for that one, and I was like, oh, that looks incredible, like I need to watch that. And I eventually did, and yes, I liked it a lot, but it never stuck with me the way that you're describing that it stuck with you.
I dug it a lot. It really worked on me. I want to watch it again, especially now that we've watched The Leftovers. Because like I can't believe Justin Theroux is in both of those shows. Like his performances, the character he's playing, the way he looks is so different. It's like a magic trick. It's like, no, it's not him. That must be his twin.
Yep. Good stuff with that. Did you have any more favorites?
To mention a comic, not just TV. Oh, well, to give a couple other things in different mediums. I'd say my favorite comic was The Vision. The Vision was wonderful. I think a lot about that, how much of that comic was narrated by these unknown narrators. Like you'd spend issues with somebody and then not know who was talking to you until like the end of that chapter. And it's all foreshadowing and dramatic irony. And little did he know that this would turn into this. And there's a lot to get out of it. It's emotionally impactful and eerie and unsettling in a way that has stuck with me.
Yeah, and it has that fantastical side, right, of it being robots and superheroes in the Marvel universe and all that stuff, but it really is a story that focuses like on just this small thing that I think every human being thinks about, and it's just like, what does it mean to be a normal person?
Yeah.
And it's just like that, I think, is like the hallmark of what great sci-fi does. Is it like takes this very human problem or issue or something and just removes it by one step. And it's like, okay, now it's all going to be aliens, or now it's all going to be robots instead. And it really shines a light on the stuff. And I think that's exactly what it did there. So bravo to the vision. One of my favorites as well.
What were some of your favorite individual performances of the year? I wanted to talk about this. Individual actors that you want to shout out.
Let me see here. I think for me, I absolutely have to go with Tilda Swinton in Suspiria. Because I did not know the trivia that is around that. I mentioned it to one of my roommates because I had asked them if they had seen it, and at first they had said no, but then as I started describing it, they were like, oh yeah, I have seen that. And then same thing, blew their mind with the like, well, Tilda Swinton is in this movie. She plays the dance instructor. She also plays someone else in that. And I guarantee you didn't know. And yeah, that just blew my mind. That like how you were mentioning that Justin Theroux can be in both of these roles, and they just completely change who they are.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. And yeah, you get this in the same movie, and it's just like, this is like, how do they do this? This is wild.
What a triumph.
Yeah,
we had a lot of amazing physical performances this year. We think about everything that the guy from Kantaro does with his face,
right?
How many distinct orgasmic reactions he has to how good a dessert is. I think about Rosa Salazar and all of her contortions in Brand New Cherry Flavor. And Dakota Johnson is on my list for Suspiria. Her shoulder blades alone get an award.
Okay.
Best performance by individual body part goes to Dakota Johnson's shoulder blades.
Yo. I think we could also kind of nominate the entire cast of *Halt and Catch Fire*. Lee Pace is, we all know he's fantastic. He's an actor's actor. I feel like, right?
Good.
But then like to see all the stuff that Scoots McNairy gets up to.
Oh my God.
I apologize. I don't know the actresses' names, but the spouses and the girl who played Cameron.
Yeah, Mackenzie Davis and Carrie Bichet.
Yeah, like
what an ensemble.
They're all just phenomenal.
That is such a small character-based show, and they really knocked it out of the park with the casting. It's so well cast. I could put any of them up here. My performance of the year, I think I will have to give it to Scoot, because I've been familiar with Lee Pace from various things for years. He's like my top 5 most handsome people I can name off the top of my head. He's so magnetic. He's so charismatic. But you watch these scenes between Joe and Gordon, and you're like, why do I keep staring at Gordon? He's so magnetic. there's something about him. Scoot McNairy's like a real favorite of mine now. He's somebody I'm really going to look for in other things.
Yeah, he's an actor that is always solid in everything he does. He's a phenomenal actor. But he's in a lot of stuff that you didn't realize he was in, and not in the like, whoa, look at all that makeup that I didn't know. Tilda Swinton was also this other character. Like it's not that. It's just like he has smaller roles in stuff. Like he's in Batman v Superman. He's in True Detective. He's in all sorts of stuff, and he's great.
He's great in Argo. Which is a movie where he's also married to Carrie Bichet. And it's like that was a dry run for *Halt and Catch Fire*.
There you go. yeah, he's great in that. I think Tilda Swinton takes the cake for me.
Mm-hmm. I also want to shout out the kid from Looper. Another episode where we spent so much time talking about that performance of this like 5-year-old boy in Looper who does so well.
Absolutely.
He's playing a character who is going to grow up to become a super villain unless, using time travel. Our titular character, well, not our titular character. His name's not Looper. It's not like his name is Joseph Gordon-Looper. Like, that's why all this time travel is happening, is to stop these tragedies from happening to this kid so that he grows up and he becomes this, like, absolute terror in the world. And there's a scene where there is sort of a perspective flash forward of, well, if you don't take these actions, this is what's going to happen to this kid. And this 5-year-old, however old this kid is, looks like an absolute menace. I've never seen a child look so terrifying.
He's such a good actor. Too, like his line delivery was outstanding, and it leaves such an impression because child actors, especially when they're that young, usually it's hit or miss, but it's usually more miss than it is hit, and then you just have to go in with the understanding that like it's a child, right? And God, it just what a great performance. So good.
And then I wanted to mention a vocal-only performance. We talk about audio dramas on this show.
We do.
I want to give my vocal performance award to Kelly Marie Tran in Passenger List.
Yeah.
She does a great job of playing somebody who is completely driven to getting to the bottom of a mystery, but is also aware of how invasive and intrusive and possibly like rude and offensive she has to be in questioning people to get to the bottom of this mystery. The fact that you can like hear her cringing so many times when she's like, do you think your brother may have been a terrorist? Like she plays the desperation and the discomfort and the feeling of being like absolutely lost and alone really well.
Absolutely. I've been watching all the Star Wars films with my girlfriend, and we just got to the one that she's in. We just watched the Last Jedi, and I was like, and there she is in Star Wars, and like that. She's good. She's a good actor for sure.
I also want to give a special award. We talked about like the strength of casting in a Halt and Catch Fire, what a great ensemble that is. I also want to shout out Love Alarm, which is this very soapy teen romance show, but those 3 leads we had were so solid, like way better than the show needed them to be, I think. That was a show that I think worked for me on the strength of those 3 performances.
I gotcha.
Got me attached to those characters in ways that I don't think I would have otherwise. But this year, we had a lot of intergenerational casting. Dark, a time travel show where we see characters in like multiple generations. Like I think we will see 3 or 4 different actors playing the same character at different times in their lives. The casting on Dark was incredible. Like, yes,
Absolutely.
that absolutely is adult Magnus. You found him.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
I
Devil All the
remember.
Time is another. Mm?
I was just gonna say one more thing on Dark. I know we mentioned it in the season 3 when we covered season 3, but yeah, there is at least one example in there where they got the like child of the actor to play the like
Oh,
younger
yeah.
version. I don't know if it was only that one case or not, but there is one that was like it looks like the younger version of it because that's their kid. So good stuff.
The Devil All the Time was it was a movie that didn't work for me as well, but that was my favorite part of it. Was just how well cast it was. Like, yeah, that character does like you got the actor who looks like they are the child of those 2 previous actors from the flashbacks. Good job.
Yep. Good stuff with that. Do you want to do I think one of our all-time favorite awards,
Well, before we do that, I did want to mention something I've done in past years is that I look at the year we're reviewing and then the previous year, and I see if there's any actors that we've covered 2 years in a row. I've got a couple of these. It isn't an extensive list, and I didn't go into like animation voiceover. If I wanted to go through everybody who had a small voice role in the Venture Brothers last year, I absolutely could. But in the interest of time, I've got a short list here. Bruce Willis has shown up for us several times accidentally. Last year, he had a small role in Moonrise Kingdom, and we watched the whole Unbreakable trilogy, and we watched The Fifth Element, and this year he's back in Looper. I
just happened to watch him in 12 Monkeys on my own, which, is also about like something happened to him when he was a young kid and bad things happened down the road. Now he has to go back in time to fix those things, just like in Looper.
Speaking of Looper, we covered another Rian Johnson movie last year, Knives Out. I think in Knives Out, Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays like a voice on a phone. I think he's got a cameo in a lot of Rian Johnson films. I think I forget his name, but there is a friend of his who's got a small role in both movies. Might be Noah Sagan. I didn't have time to double check this. In my notes, I literally just wrote down Ryan's friend. So I don't know. Also, I forget his name, but the guy who played Moriarty in Sherlock at the beginning of the year was a villain inspector. We've got him. Adam Brody, he's another standout for me. He was my favorite part of Ready or Not last year. He's also in The Kid Detective, which is another one of my favorites from that year. That movie's fascinating.
It's a good one.
We have had, speaking of James Bond, Judi Dench. Last year we watched Murder in the Orient Express. This year we watched those Bonds. We got Mads Mikkelsen in Bond. Last year we watched him in Hannibal. Daniel Craig himself, Bond this year. He was Benoit Blanc last year. Yeah. D.B. Woodside was in the one season of Lucifer we watched last year, and he shows up in one episode of *Halt and Catch Fire*. Unfortunately, doesn't return. Anya Taylor-Joy from the not the whole Unbreakable trilogy, but Split and Glass last year, and Queen's Gambit this year. Another show I really love. It came out at the end of 2020, and that's when I watched it. And we covered it at the beginning of 2021, so I didn't rewatch it. It was still fresh enough in my mind. So I keep forgetting to think about it as part of like this year's content.
Yeah.
Toni Collette was in Knives Out last year and in Stowaway this year. And also in Stowaway this year, Daniel Day Kim, who had a small role as a scientist in Spider-Man 2. Never forget.
Sure did, yep.
So there's probably more, but that's my short list. That's a handful of actors we've seen 2 years in a row. Perhaps we will see them again.
Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Which one of our... Do you want to move on to
Skinboy.
Okay, so this is the Skinboy Memorial Award for supporting players. It's for some of our favorite minor supporting characters in any story we've covered this year, named after a character from the comic series Harrow County who's just skin. He's just enchanted, like possessed skin who like flops around and helps the main witch character do things.
Yep. Yep. You know how you sometimes joke around of like, oh yeah, the stupid skin suit that I have on. That's exactly what he is. He's a skin suit.
Yep.
He's a onesie.
Who? Yeah. Who does your Skinboy Award go to this year?
Someone that you have already mentioned. Mine goes to Scoots McNeary. Because I think you could argue for him being one of the main characters in there.
He's the second lead, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but like that's the thing. I think Lee Pace is the actor that they got to like lead the show.
Yeah.
But even still, that being said, I feel like all of the characters in their own way are the lead actors of that show, which then just makes them all supporting characters for one another. Like that show is filled with supporting characters. Like there is no lead character in that.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly what's so fascinating. Like it's an ensemble cast that is not meant to be like, oh, like they're all supporting for Superman and Batman here.
Right.
Like those are the leaders of the Justice League, but we still have the rest of the team. This is like, oh, they're all on the same level here of like being interesting and great acting skills and all that stuff. But I think, yeah, in the way that you were drawn to his character and his acting skill, I was too. But like, I think on it, like it was more like on paper, like he's the supporting actor here.
Do you have anybody that you'd like to nominate for this award who truly is in a small role? Because that's how I've always imagined this award, is for like, this is the person who's like, I don't know, 7th on the call sheet, who's way down there, who's in it very minorly, but still gives you something that you remember throughout the rest of the year.
Sure. Let me see here. I might have to think on that one.
Okay,
so
I've got mine.
Yours, yeah.
This is a supporting character who really is a minor part of the movie that they're in. But when we talked about this movie, both of us had a completely different like headcanon for what this guy's background was and what he did before he arrived in the events of the story. Both of us took this minor character and looked at him in completely different ways, got completely different uses out of him. We talked about him for like 10 minutes in an episode full of lots of things we could have talked about. I'm giving my Skinboy Memorial Award to Otho from Beetlejuice.
Okay, Otho. I was like, who is she talking about? What's going on? That's a good one. Yeah, because we did talk about him a lot in that one. Interesting.
Other nominees, the twin boys from season 1 of The Leftovers.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a lot more that could be said about The Leftovers.
There is. There's a lot. So all right. So I've been looking through all of the stuff that we covered.
Yeah.
There's a couple that I think I can mention here. I don't remember her name, but there was the character in the Queen's Gambit that was the friend from the orphanage. Just the fact that
that's a good one.
She was there for her the entire time, like even after they had like lost contact, she was still like rooting for her, right? Just to have her in that corner. There is a nice thing.
Yeah.
And then I had, where did it go here? Where did it go? What was I gonna do? Oh, in House of Leaves, actually, I want to give a shout out to the main character's brother. who like just kind of
yes!
like gives up his life to just go be at this house and like help his brother through
that's
this
such a good one.
madness. Yeah, and then by the end of that story, he just has this like tragic death. That he just like gets swallowed up by the house here. I don't remember his
I'm looking
name,
through my
but
notes about this. I took some notes on the book. It might have been like Tim or Tom or something. I forget.
yeah,
I don't know if it's
like
in
that.
here.
It's a real simple
Right.
name.
It's just sort of like an uncle name. That's a really good one.
Yeah, because he was just so like ready, like not like enthusiastic about like, yeah, like let's go explore, like let's do this, but he recognized that his brother was in need and needed help and was willing to give up his own life literally to help them figure out what this was. So yeah,
That's great. You reminded me of something else I wanted to talk about, which is recurring themes we've come across in the stories we've covered this year. Between Halt and Catch Fire and The Leftovers, we've got a wife hiding her pregnancy from her husband. That was something that struck me. That was the first one I wrote down. Between The Leftovers and Dark, we've got a flashback to a party that was happy, but since you were flashing back to it, you've got the dramatic irony of how bad everything goes. So it becomes so tragic watching these people like listening to Heaven is a Place on Earth and dancing around. Digging a hole. Yep. Kevin digs some holes. There's the pivotal moment in Halt and Catch Fire where Gordon digs a hole in his backyard. One of the highlights of the entire year. If you had me pick individual moments from narratives we've covered this year,
Gordon
maybe I'd pick the hole. Gordon digs a hole. It's riveting. Detectives with eye patches.
Yeah.
We've got Detective Olner in Dark, and then for like one scene, Kevin gets interrogated by a detective with an eye patch in The Leftovers. Baby Jesus antics. That's a whole episode of The Leftovers where Jill steals the baby Jesus doll out of the nativity scene outside the church, and then it also came up in Love Hard.
Yeah.
Another theme is men who look good with beards and without beards.
Okay, yeah.
I look back on the year and I thought about how, like, it's season 3 of The Leftovers, Kevin comes back and he has a beard, and then all of his acolytes, like Kevin and Matt, like John and Matt, have also grown beards, and you don't know if it's coincidental or if they did it to emulate Kevin, their god. Then the various like facial hair changes that Joe and Gordon go through over the decade that Halt and Catch Fire covers. I'm sure there's other options, but those are things that just stuck out to me. Actors who you see them with a beard and without a beard, and you're like, both looks are good. Thanks for showing me both looks. And I think the ultimate theme, uniting theme of things we covered this year is glimpses at alternate worlds. This was the main point of Dark. This was the main point of, this happened a lot in The Leftovers. This happened in Flashpoint. This isn't something the character is experiencing, but it's something we, the audience, are experiencing in Gotham by Gaslight, a DC Elseworld story.
Right.
This happens in Maniac. This even happens at the end of Halt and Catch Fire, where Donna and Cameron imagine, what if we did start another business together? And they go through the entire spiel of, well, we'd call it this. And then like over their heads, like the sign of what their theoretical company would be appears. And then when they're like, yeah, but the company would just crumble, then like the sign like clicks off. It is delit. That's my nomination. I think that's a theme we ran into several times this year. I think last year's theme was like sibling team ups. We had a lot of like pairs of siblings, groups of siblings who were out there getting things done, whether it be like taking down a giant corporation or fighting a man in a butterfly costume.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. Good stuff. Date. Who would you
Yeah, I think
most
this
likely want to go on a date with? That's what I want to know.
is
What
is this our
character
is this our
would
is this our final segment?
I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, you still have the playlist, right?
Oh my god, right, yes. Okay. The playlist will be last. The Dream Date Award. I think I've got two. One of them is Detective Woolner, the eye patch detective from Dark. He's handsome, he's mysterious, he seems nice, he keeps in touch with his family.
He's the one
and
that
this is the only
doesn't get wrapped up in all of these like
right,
dark revenge plots
safe.
And stuff. Yeah.
Nothing ever happens to Detective Woolner. He just lives in town and does his job.
Well, he always gets hurt. Is the thing? If it's not his eye, it's his ear or something, right?
Yeah, I love when we see him in an alternate universe. He still has the eye, but he's lost an arm. That's also the one joke that Dark has. Dark is the darkest show we've ever watched. It's so grim. It's so dour. That's like the one
so
joke
good.
they allow themselves is the guy with the unexplained eye patch. And this is the only date I've kind of been able to achieve. A couple weeks ago, I did go on a date with a guy who just he had both his eyes, he had all his limbs, but he had like a similar hair. Like he had the same like sort of nice, thick, longish hair. And he'd spent several years like studying abroad and living in Germany, and he still kind of had a German accent. So like this is the closest I've ever gotten actually getting one of these dream dates.
That's amazing.
And my other one, I think maybe my dream date of the year. Gotta give it to Q. I love Q.
Okay, yeah. Q would be a good one. That'd be a good one for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's often like he's also seen in those James Bond movies, like trying to do like a romantic dinner or stuff like that, and it just gets ruined. Like the guy just needs a date, right? Like,
yeah, I'll take him out. We'll go to the museum. We'll drink tea. His cats are hairless, so I won't be allergic to them. Q and I could make it work.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good stuff. So I have a list of a couple people here. This was also a year that I was just like I couldn't pick. Like there was not like one in particular that stood out. But I think mine are kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum as you, whereas mine are like more of the ones that would probably only last for a date.
Right. Mine are like sensible career men with nice hair.
Mine are the punks and the like more mysterious like this probably isn't gonna work out, is it? But it'd be fun to go on one date with them.
Before you forget, I want to shout out another important eye patch character, which is the girl from a brand new cherry flavor. I had to count up every eye patch. Don't forget about, I think her name was Mary. I don't remember her name, but I remember she was there and she was missing an eye.
Yep, absolutely. So the first character that I have written down on here is Erica Slaughter from Something Is Killing the Children. I picked her. I just like her aesthetic, like the way she looked. Like she looks cool, like that. Like she looks like someone that I would want to be friends with and get to know. But like I said, it probably wouldn't last long. Like it'd be an interesting conversation if she was willing to like sit down and actually talk with me, right?
You both love camping out for hours in a chain bar and grill.
Exactly. We have so much in common. See? Yeah, but like it seems like she has some interesting stories to tell. I know she's a character that probably wouldn't want to talk about them or open up. But yeah. On top of that, Lisa Nova from Brand New Cherry Flavor. I think just with my art background, like to get to talk about the art and stuff that she's trying to make, I think would be Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron from *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Of course, yeah,
Again,
ultimate babe.
Yeah, but also again goes in line with the more like punk flavor that I have my theme here with. Plus, she designs video games, and I love video games.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be fascinating. And then last but not least, I had to look up her name because I didn't remember it. This is one I think fits the least with the three that I just mentioned, but in her own way could probably fit. Dobashi from Kentaro. This is the one who was also interested in sweets, but was the like darker, mysterious girl.
Good.
That was like also super obsessive with like, I need to expose him and his secret. Like she was an interesting character because she was also so passionate about this stuff. And yeah, it was just like there's something about her, like she has the just like darker, mysterious side, right? Of like, like I feel like there's more to her than she's not letting on, and that is the like mysteriousness of like I want to see what else you're about. Like tell me more here. Yeah. So.
You go for the darker, mysterious punk ones. I think the darkest character I considered putting on my list was the kid detective, adult kid detective Adam Brody.
yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. I think those dates would be fun. They if nothing else would be good conversations. Would burn hot for a short time and then would fizzle out. I'm sure. But yeah. There you go. Those would be my dates there. This is always fun. Good year.
Yeah. The final segment, every year I make a playlist of songs from or representing content we've covered the year. The first time I did this, I like had the idea to do it like 2 hours before we recorded. And this year I also like forgot I was supposed to do it and did it in like the hour before I sat down here. There's only 21 songs. It's not very comprehensive. It's, I gotta do at least some semblance of this every year. So, of course, we start the playlist with Skyfall, the best of the Bond themes. Following that up, not everything gets a song, unfortunately. We skip ahead to the Queen's Gambit, where I've got One Night in Bangkok, the song from the musical Chess.
Okay.
There were many songs I could have picked from Halt and Catch Fire, but I went with Valoria from the Pixies, which is the song that plays when Joe and Cameron are dancing at the like Comtech party. Yeah. That's a scene that stuck with me a lot. That's very emotional. And then like Donna comes out of nowhere and is also staring at Cameron like, wow, I miss Cameron. Then we got the Pokemon theme, the Pacific Rim theme, of course, the theme to Dark, which also gets a special award for hands down the best opening credit sequence of the year. I think the best opening credit sequence I've ever seen. So that song is
incredible.
That is Goodbye from Apparat and Soap and Skin. For Dr. Doom, I gave him Prima Donna by Marina and the Diamonds. Prima Donna girl. All I ever wanted was the world. Can't help that I need it all. The Prima Donna life, the rise and fall.
That sounds like Dr. Doom to me.
For Kentaro, it's the classic I Want Candy.
Yep.
For Maniac, I put down the song Maniac, and then I realized this really should be the song for Suspiria.
Yep.
For one of the weeks you weren't here, I mentioned we read the hockey comic Check Please. And for that, I put down Gloria by Laura Branigan, which became the good luck song for our hometown hockey team, the St. Louis Blues. This became some sort of a ritual for them. And then when they realized they were doing really well and they would go into the playoffs, like this song carried them through. all of St. Louis was obsessed with the song Gloria for several months. They
That's so
put it on
funny.
merchandise. Yeah, so this song will
awesome.
forever represent hockey to me. For Stowaway, I have a song called Going to Mars by Judah and the Lion. For House of Leaves, we got Lucky. The author's sister is the musical artist Poe, and she did an album called Haunted that is songs inspired by House of Leaves. Like, she was working on this album at the same time Mark Z. Danielewski was writing the book, and they kind of influenced each other.
Yeah.
I put on a song called Hey Pretty, and this is the remix of the song that has Mark Z. Danielewski reading passages from the book in it.
Cool.
Pretty cool. I've got a song from the Digimon the movie soundtrack. I've got that cover of Kids in America by Lynn. The Leftovers, another show with really great needle drops, great use of music, but I went with Simon and Garfunkel's Homeward Bound, the song that Kevin has to sing at karaoke to save his life.
Yep.
I think I got something for everything we covered in October, so at least I've got a solid month. For Lake Mungo, I've got Haunt by Bastille. For brand new cherry flavor, I've got My Body's a Zombie for You by Dead Man's Bones. For Beetlejuice, it's Banana Boat. Dado.
Yep, you have to.
Come, Mr. Tallyman. For Something is Killing the Children, I have a song called Bloody Shirt by To Kill a King. And for Suspiria, which I put on before I realized, no, it's Maniac. It's just Maniac again 2 more times. It's a song called Animal by Sir Chloe, because it reminded me of that part in the movie where Susie talks about how the dancing makes her feel like it feels like sex, but not like the sex she would have with a man, like this animalistic, like instinctive sex. It reminded me of that.
Interesting.
For Kiki's Delivery Service, it's just Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours by Stevie Wonder. And finally, for 8-Bit Christmas, I found a song by the nerd band Kirby Crackle called In Another Castle. That's just a song from Mario's point of view, like, dang, I can't catch up to Princess Peach. Every time I try and find her, she's not there. So I wanted a Nintendo theme song, and I feel like that represents the kids' like constant search for, is this how I get an NES? Is this how I do it? My NES is in another scheme?
Yeah.
No, not in this mall. So there it is. There is playlist. Semblance of playlist. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is fantastic. Yeah, you'll have to send me that link so we can put that in the description of the podcast and in the YouTube video. All of that stuff, so you guys can go check it out if you want. But yeah, that is this year, 2021.
It is
for
this
the review
year.
show. Good stuff. This was fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, and then we know we're starting off next year with the entire Matrix series, all 3 original movies, the Animatrix. And then we are going to talk about Matrix Resurrections. We don't know yet if it'll be in that episode or if it'll be a separate Reactor Core episode.
Yes. On top of that, have you started those yet, Melissa?
I watched the first one, and I am doing it in chronological order. I watched the first Matrix.
Gotcha. Cool. I was going to say, if you're doing that, if I'm not mistaken, I think technically the next thing that comes out is the Animatrix. I think
okay.
There is.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Put it this way. There's an animated short in the Animatrix that is really, really important for the world of the Matrix, but it's mentioned heavily in I think the 3rd one. So at least watch it before the
That's helpful.
Third one. Specifically, it's the final flight of the Osiris is the short there, but I know on HBO Max it just plays them in whatever order it wants it to be in. I don't remember which one is first, but yeah, so just FYI.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, starting the year off with The Matrix. Stuff like that.
Movies of the future.
Yeah, I'm excited. Cool. Yeah. I still don't have exactly the things set that we will do for our first end of the month series starting in the new year, but I think we will be talking about that on our retrospective.
Okay.
So I am at least going to be throwing some ideas out there, and then by time we do our Matrix one, we will announce that to be like, here's what we're doing for sure.
Okay.
So there you go. Good stuff. Well, happy 2021. We hope it was a good one for you guys. And happy 2022. We hope this next year will be a blast as well. Mm-hmm. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities. Me and my brother Jams co-host the show, and it's about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
Oh, you guys want to stay up to date with me? I'm at Yo Kyle Springer. If you guys want to follow all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. And we will see you all in 2022. Until then, bye.
Bye.